Hello and welcome back to my channel where I like to have fun with all things beauty while being critical about what I accept into my collection. Today I am doing just a little bit of an updates video for makeup and skincare. I guess real quick, just to put this into some amount of context, I do live in South Florida and today is Wednesday, October 9th at almost 7 p.m. So we are about to get a little bit of weather. We've been extremely lucky for the past few years, actually. I live very close to Miami and we haven't really had any bad hurricanes recently, and we totally missed Helene. And it looks like we're mostly going to miss this storm as well. Just out of pure luck, my heart really goes out to everybody in Orlando and Tampa right now. I know things are looking really serious. So even for us over here, we've had tornadoes in the area that are actually pretty significant. Probably the biggest tornadoes I've seen in the 13 years that I've been here. So nothing this week is normal, including this video. I was going to film a Sephora video this week. I'm going to put that off till next week. Instead, today, I just wanted to talk a little bit about my results with Snoxin II. That's a skincare trial that I've been doing. And I don't know, chat a little bit about the Patrick Ta foundation since I got a sample of it. So first up, Snoxin II. What is it? According to the company, it is a super concentrated formula specially designed to soften the appearance of dynamic facial lines and wrinkles. Snoxin II uses high-dosage peptides to achieve a smoother, more even skin texture and maximum moisture retention. Formulated with XEP-018, a clinically proven peptide that helps minimize muscle contractions and relax lines and wrinkles instantly. This facial line fighter is peptide packed to improve skin elasticity, helping skin appear younger. So, in all reality, this sounds an awful lot like argireline, which, that's a peptide that was coined Botox in a bottle. Obviously, nothing is Botox other than Botox, so we're not even going to entertain that thought. But that doesn't mean that all of these peptides are therefore useless. I still think that there are a lot of great peptides on the market. There's a lot of promise in studying these different peptides. I think unfortunately we are at the beginning of that. So we just don't know that much. We're sort of in the phase where we're throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. The good thing is there's not a high buy-in. You can try a lot of different peptides for very reasonable prices, and it's a lot of good old trial and error. At this point they've been around long enough where a lot of companies are using the same ones, but there are also a lot of proprietary blends out there, and at the very least I feel like they're not hurting anything. They're hydrating if nothing else. So that's why I'm really open to trying a wide variety of peptides, and I would be lying if I said I saw any huge results, but I don't expect to. What I'm looking for is minimal improvement. So what I did with this is I gave it a full 2 months. I purchased 2 tubes of it, so I was using it morning and night religiously. I never skipped. And, each tube lasting a month, it's reasonably cost effective. So nothing like some of the skin trials that I was doing early on with growth factors and all kinds of crazy things that really are primarily a waste of money. I feel a lot better about peptide serums, but regardless, what was my experience with this? Well, I'll put up some before and afters, but I took about 20 before and 20 after photos, and I have to say, I really didn't notice any difference. I mostly concentrated on putting it on my forehead lines and my crow's feet for a few reasons. Number one, it's a small tube, so I'm not going to be putting it all over my face. And number two, it does contain phenoxyethanol, which I am sensitive to. So using it in smaller areas was better for me in my experience overall. I will say there's not really anything else going on in this formula that would make me want to use it all over my face. I think using it in the concentrated areas was perfectly fine and made it easier to evaluate at the end of my trial. I will also throw in that I did also kind of do this with argireline. I bought it from The Ordinary a few years ago, and I didn't take before pictures specifically around starting this serum. I had other before pictures from a different trial that I was doing. So I compared them to those. The timeline wasn't totally cut and dry like it was for this, so I won't include that here, but I saw no benefits from that either. So, I know that that's not everybody's experience. I have definitely talked to people who have had a decent time with argireline. Not that it would ever replace Botox at all in any way, but they noticed fine line softening. So they did find some help. That's what I was looking for here. And I can't say that I honestly noticed anything in 2 months. I am on the fence about trying it for a third month because I do think a lot of things, really 3 months is a better amount of time for a trial. But I like to at least check in at a 2 month mark and I don't know, try to evaluate whether or not it makes any sense going forward with it. And at this point, I just don't think it's worth it. I wouldn't be opposed to buying one final tube of it. I still might do that, but I don't know. I'm certainly not seeing anything that's going to really promote that. If this was also hydrating, I genuinely would. If this was something I used as a layer of moisture, I would absolutely buy another tube of it because it certainly isn't hurting anything. But I don't know. I just don't think that I'm impressed enough. Go ahead and purchase this again. The other ingredients that I like is it does have matrixyl 6, but I already have that in my routine in a serum from Timeless that's very affordable. And it's mostly about that proprietary ingredient and that alone. So I don't know. I mean, I will say while I was using it, I kind of in my head felt like I was seeing the softening of lines, but I think the photos kind of prove that that's not really true. One of the issues with my before and afters is that I have so much hyperpigmentation that sometimes that's all you can see in these photos. But, I tried my best to be unbiased. And with this, I just don't think it's making, even if it is making a difference, it's not significant enough for me to want to really go out of my way to continue using this. I'm always looking for things to extend between Botox. Like right now in my life, the way it is, I do Botox twice a year. I do it before the holidays and I do it at the start of summer. So, if you know anything about Botox, it wears off. For everyone is a little bit different. For me, I think it mostly wears off within 2 months. I get most of my movement back at 2 months, but I don't get my lines back yet. That takes more like 3 or 4 months for those to come back, but they're not as etched in. So when you hear people talk about, I have no Botox in my face, I can absolutely testify to the fact that that doesn't mean that your wrinkles are as bad as they were before you ever did Botox. They are markedly improved even after only doing Botox once. I know the first time I did Botox was before my wedding, so I was blown away with the results. I waited about a year to do it again. But even at that year mark, my wrinkles were nowhere near as bad as they were before I ever did Botox in the first place. So because of that, I don't know. When you hear people be like, well, I have no Botox right now, it doesn't mean that their skin is totally the way it would be if they had never gotten it to begin with. So I did think it was worth mentioning that. But anyway, having had no Botox in my face for 4 or 5 months was the reason I decided to do this trial now. And it's like a lot of things. I hate that because if something were to really work, like, I don't know, I'm pretty sure we would know about it. And everyone's skin is a little bit different, but my genuine feeling is this stuff is just okay. It's not great, it's not terrible, but at least it's not that expensive. So try at your own risk, I guess, is the bottom line. It would be way better as a content creator for me to be able to sit here and tell you that this did something drastic, whether it was good or bad, but unfortunately, most things just aren't great or terrible. So I guess aside from that, I wanted to talk about the new Pat McGrath collection. I know I mentioned it in my last video, and hearing stuff from the brand, it does not seem like we are getting a mothership this year. They made some comments on Instagram that were very contradicting. One comment to asking if there was a mothership was saying, hopefully, and then the very next comment was, not this year. So very on brand for Pat McGrath as of late. Like, we don't know, but probably not. I've been used to getting disappointed for a while now. But one thing I wanted to mention is we do have confirmation that this holiday set at least is not the formula made in the US. If you've bought any of those holiday releases, the larger palettes usually are shadows made in the United States, and they're just not as good. They're not the Italian formula, they're not as good. However, this year I suspected, just based on looking at how the shadows looked in the pan, that they were going to be the same formula as these 5 pans that she came out a couple of times now. I think 2 years in a row she had 5 pans for the holiday release. It is that formula. That formula is an Italian formula, but it is not the same as what's in the motherships. So there's no special shades here. They're just not that impactful. I have 4 of these. I do like them, but I don't love them. They are extremely soft and very satin. You're not going to get a high octane shimmer from this formula. And I'm going to try to put in some B-roll to show exactly what I mean. They're really soft, similar to Indie Shadows. I mean, they're just okay. I just feel like if you're looking for something special and you see that a holiday set is an Italian made formula, just know that it's good, but it's a different formula than the mothership. It is not the same Italian formula as what's in those motherships or the quads, which I don't think she's coming out with those anymore either. I have a feeling they might be switching to this formula exclusively, which would be on one hand disappointing, on the other hand, a really good way for me to save money because I don't need any more shadows in this formula. I'm like good for life. So I did want to point that out just because I have this formula in case anyone was interested in hearing about that. I also got a sample of the Patrick Ta foundation. That's what I have on my face today. I am not ready to talk about my final thoughts with that yet. I still have to test it in a bunch of different ways. My biggest critique the first day I wore it was that it wasn't covering enough. I have quite a big blemish on my chin right now, and it's very inflamed. And I genuinely felt like not only did the foundation not layer well on itself, but it didn't really work that well with most concealers. I know that this foundation is water-based, so it's really important to use a water-based primer. That I found out the hard way because the first time I wore it, it separated. It didn't even, like I swiped it on my face and I could see my pores poking through because it was actively separating. I washed my face, I used a water-based primer, and then it was fine. But even with water-based everything, it just didn't seem to like blend in with the concealers, even my water-based concealers. I don't know how to really explain it other than it kind of wanted to be left alone. Today I put powder on top, which I'm on the fence about how I feel about that. You know, I tend to really like a medium coverage. I have hyperpigmentation, melasma, sunspots, ton of acne spots, and active acne. So I really like something that evens me out. And I feel like I was prepared that this was going to be a light coverage, but I wanted to try it anyway because I have desert dry skin. So I think going forward, I'm going to try it with more concealers and see if that makes a difference, if that makes me like it more. I was hoping that it would replace my NARS Light Reflecting Foundation because as much as I love that foundation, and I absolutely do, I have an issue with the shade range. It all pulls very yellow on me, and the cooler shades are typically too light. So I had hopes for this, but I don't think it is going to in fact be a replacement, unfortunately, because the shade is great. I have it in 10N and it is perfect. It is absolutely perfect. It's one of the best shade matches that I've ever come across. So much so that going forward, I will use it for the shade finder online. Not that that usually works very well. But anyway, that is another thing that I am trying right now before the Sephora sale. I'm definitely going over my loves list and my favorites list, so we can start talking about that next week. The sale doesn't start until November 1st for Rouge, so we have some time. Luckily, I don't feel rushed. I do appreciate the fact that we've found out about the sale far enough in advance that there's plenty of time for all of that. So anyway, I am sending all of my love to all of the people who just went through Helene and are now faced with Milton. Obviously, I don't know how bad this storm will be. I will know that when I am editing, so I might pop in some commentary here. So I just wanted to give everybody a quick update. This is where I am in Florida, and as you probably know from the news, we really didn't have any damage here. I live right between Fort Lauderdale and Miami, so We do get a lot of hurricanes, but the past few years we've been pretty lucky. We did have some tornadoes as close as Palm Beach, but luckily nothing super close to our house. It's definitely a concern. I feel like going forward, these tornadoes are becoming more prevalent during hurricanes, so that is just absolute devastating levels of destruction. So, needless to say, I'm concerned for the future, but we've been really lucky, and all of our friends and family north of us, they were all okay as well. I was in Broward County in 2005 for Wilma, where the structure I was in was completely destroyed. So, I sort of know what that's like, and it is absolutely terrifying. So, heart goes out to everyone who is dealing with the destruction from this, and hope everyone's continuing to stay safe, and hopefully that's the end of hurricane season for this year. You know, these hurricanes are no joke. They're only getting worse. I really hope everyone stays safe, and I look forward to talking to you more about makeup next week as a lighthearted escape, and I hope you are having a beautiful weekend, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.